You've been told your whole life that if you just work harder, things will eventually pay off. But look around. Most of the hardest workers you know aren't the ones moving forward. They're the ones stuck, exhausted, and wondering what they did wrong. The truth is, the game was never about effort, it was about leverage. The people who rise the fastest aren't always the smartest or the strongest. They're the ones who understand how to multiply what little they have. Every empire, every breakthrough, every fortune was built on someone finding a lever big enough to move their world. And here's the uncomfortable part. You don't need money, you don't need connections. You just need to understand how to use what you already have in a way no one else sees. So if you're sitting there thinking you've got nothing, you're wrong. You already hold the raw material of leverage inside your mind. You just haven't learned how to shape it yet. In the next few minutes, I'll show you how men like Leonardo da Vinci and Napoleon Hill turned nothing, no wealth, no power, no privilege, into the kind of leverage that changed everything. Because if they could do it centuries apart, so can you. In this video, I'm not going to tell you to just believe in yourself or work smarter. You've heard that 1,000 times and it changes nothing. What you'll get here is different. We're going to break down 3 hidden principles of leverage that nobody talks about. The same principles Da Vinci used to turn curiosity into invention, and Napoleon Hill used to turn ideas into empires. Then I'll show you a 6-step playbook that you can start using today, even if you have nothing, no team, no capital, no special access. It's a blueprint built for the man who's tired of trading his time for scraps, for the one who wants to build something that compounds, something that works even when he's not. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly how to turn what you already know, already think, and already do into leverage that moves your life forward. In the last video, we exposed the lie, the one that told you hard work alone would set you free. You learned that effort without leverage is like pushing a boulder with your bare hands. It doesn't matter how strong you are. You'll move inches while others build machines that move miles. That realization hit hard, because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to believing that time and sweat will save you. But awareness isn't enough. It's the first step, not the last. Now you're standing in the space between knowing and doing, between truth and transformation. And that space is where most men stay stuck. They understand the problem, but they never build the system to escape it. That's what we're going to change today. We're going to fill that gap. You'll learn how to turn your lack of money, lack of connections, and lack of opportunity into the exact fuel that gives you leverage. Because what you think is nothing can become the most powerful asset you'll ever own, if you know how to use it. Leverage is simple to define, but hard to master. It's the art of using small actions to create results that keep working long after you stop. It's what separates the worker from the builder, the man who labors from the man who multiplies. There are 4 kinds of leverage in every era of history: information, systems, people, and capital. Most men chase capital because they think it's the first domino, but the truth is, capital is the last one to fall. Information, systems, and people always come first. When you have no money, those 3 become your only tools, and they're the ones that built every great mind you've ever heard of. Leonardo da Vinci built leverage out of observation. He connected art, science, and engineering centuries before the world had a name for it. He learned to see patterns no one else saw and to turn them into inventions that outlived him. Napoleon Hill built leverage out of psychology. He mapped the invisible laws of desire, focus, and organized action. He proved that your thoughts, when disciplined and directed, become real structures in the world. 2 men, 400 years apart, different tools, same pattern. Both started with nothing and built systems that still move people today. That's the blueprint we're about to unpack. So how do you build leverage when you have nothing? You start by mastering 3 laws that every man who multiplies results eventually discovers. They are not theories. They are tools hidden in plain sight. The first is observation. Observation is the first lever, because the man with no capital still has his eyes. Leonardo da Vinci proved that centuries ago. He could not buy influence. He had no family name, no patron when he began. But he had the patience to look deeper than anyone else. When he watched water twist through a stream, he saw the same spiral inside the muscles of the human arm. When he studied birds, he noticed the rhythm that later shaped his sketches for flight. He connected what no one thought was connected. That is the pattern mind, the ability to see across categories. Da Vinci understood that observation, when written down, becomes property. Every note in his journals was stored potential energy. Those pages were his factories long before machines existed. He turned curiosity into inventory. He proved that information, when organized, is leverage that no one can steal. If you think you have nothing, start there. Spend 1 hour each day noticing instead of scrolling. Write what repeats, what breaks, what stands out. Ask where else the same pattern could create value. Observation is free, but it compounds like interest. That is how the poor man begins to buy his freedom, with attention. The second law is definite purpose. Napoleon Hill called it the master key of the mind. He spent decades studying men who started with empty pockets and built empires. He found the same pattern every time. They all had a goal so clear it burned through distraction. They did not wish for outcomes, they designed them. Hill discovered a method he called auto-suggestion, the discipline of programming your own thinking. He taught people to write one statement of purpose, speak it out loud every morning and every night, and review it until the words became instruction to the subconscious. Modern psychology would call this cognitive priming. Hill called it faith backed by action. Both mean the same thing. Your mind becomes the operating system of your future. Most men think they need motivation. What they really need is direction. A man who knows what he is building moves differently. He recognizes opportunity faster. He wastes less. Purpose is mental leverage. It organizes chaos into order. If you have no money, no team, and no clear plan, write one sentence that defines the result you will create in 90 days. Read it until your brain believes it, because once it does, your behavior will obey. The third law is the artifact and the mastermind. Da Vinci left behind notebooks. Hill left a book and a network of minds that refined his ideas. Both knew that thoughts only gain power when they take physical form. An artifact is anything that carries your intelligence without your presence. A design, a system, a letter, a process, a video. Once it exists, it keeps working while you rest. That is mechanical leverage, the force that multiplies your effort through time. The mastermind is the amplifier. It is not a crowd. It is a small circle of disciplined minds who sharpen each other. Da Vinci had apprentices who questioned his drawings. Hill built alliances of entrepreneurs who exchanged strategy instead of gossip. 3 people who share a goal will outperform 30 who only share opinions. That is social leverage, the ability to borrow other minds to extend your reach. One artifact, one circle, endless replication. When you combine these 3 laws, observation that discovers patterns, purpose that directs energy, and artifacts that compound through people, you stop chasing opportunity and start manufacturing it. This is how leverage is born from nothing. It is not luck and it is not privilege. It is structure. You take what you see, you give it direction, and you build something that keeps working when you don't. Leverage is not about working harder. It is about multiplying the invisible until the world can no longer ignore it. You now understand the laws, observation, purpose, and creation, but knowing the laws means nothing if you do not move. So here is the framework, the 90-day playbook. It is not motivation, it is architecture, a structure for the man who has nothing but wants to build momentum that will not die. Every step is small, measurable, and concrete. You do not need investors, followers, or luck. You only need consistency and a notebook. Each day builds the next. Each action becomes a new lever, and when these 6 steps stack, you will have something that works when you stop. That is the purpose of leverage, to create a machine from your own mind. Let's begin. Everything starts with commitment. Before Da Vinci ever painted, he made a vow to study truth wherever it appeared. Before Hill ever wrote, he promised to devote 20 years to mapping the mind. Commitment creates identity. Without it, every plan collapses. You begin by writing a single sentence. It will look simple, but it will shape the next 90 days of your life. Write this line. By this date, I will build one system or artifact that produces measurable value. It does not matter how small the outcome seems. What matters is that you choose one outcome and define it in clear language. Now read it every morning and every night. That repetition is not ritual, it is alignment. Each time you read it, you tell your mind what to filter, what to ignore, and what to chase. Hill called it autosuggestion. You are programming your attention, and attention, not time, is your real currency. Do not wait to feel ready. Read the statement out loud today. Put the date on your calendar. Mark it in ink. You have just built the foundation of leverage, a direction that cannot be negotiated. If commitment gives you direction, observation gives you fuel. Observation is the first lever. The man with no capital still has his eyes. Da Vinci built his empire on that truth. For 14 days, you practice this skill deliberately. Each morning or night, write 3 things you noticed in the world. They can be from work, from the street, or from your own habits. Each note should answer 3 questions. What is happening? What makes it unusual? And where else could this same pattern apply? This is how Da Vinci worked. He studied the flight of birds to design machines. He watched the way a candle flickered to understand air movement. He learned that every motion hides a principle, and every principle can be moved somewhere new. That transfer is the beginning of creation. At the end of 2 weeks, review your notes. You will find patterns that repeat. Choose 3 that feel alive. Ask how they could combine with what you already know how to do. A writer might notice how people pause before answering difficult questions. A designer might notice how light directs emotion in a room. Each pattern can become leverage when captured and reused. Da Vinci's notebooks were not random, they were banks of potential. Every page he filled was a piece of stored energy that he could trade later for invention or reputation. You can do the same. Your journal becomes your first asset. Your attention becomes your capital. For the man who has nothing, that is where leverage begins. Not with money, but with the ability to see what others overlook. Observation alone is not leverage. It is potential energy waiting for a direction. Now you must connect what you have seen with what you can do. Every man owns at least one skill, even if he has never named it. It might be writing, explaining, fixing, organizing, listening. Leverage begins when you connect that skill to a pattern that others have not yet noticed. This is the intersection, where what you know meets what the world needs. Da Vinci combined anatomy with mechanics. He turned the motion of tendons into the blueprint for machines. Hill combined psychology with discipline. He turned invisible thoughts into visible wealth. You can combine 2. Look back at your journal. Choose one pattern that feels alive. Ask yourself, what skill could translate this into something useful? If you can write, describe it. If you can teach, explain it. If you can build, design it. The goal is not perfection, but connection. Write one line that defines your first offer. I will use this skill to solve this problem through this pattern. That line is your prototype in words. It gives your work a clear direction and a boundary. When you name the intersection, you create clarity, and clarity is power, because the man who knows what he is building can ignore what does not matter. Once you have direction, you must act before the idea dies. Da Vinci never worshipped perfection. He sketched 100 unfinished ideas because he knew that movement reveals truth faster than reflection. You have 7 days to build your first artifact. It can be an article, a short video, a digital sketch, a simple tool, a plan, anything you can complete in 72 hours. The purpose is to translate one pattern into form, because leverage grows only from what exists. Most men wait for confidence before they move. The few who move create confidence by acting. Hill wrote that faith without action is dead. Da Vinci lived that principle long before it had words. Do not polish, do not overthink. Your first prototype is a mirror. It shows you what works and what breaks. When you publish it, you step into reality. You stop thinking like a worker and start behaving like a builder. One artifact, no matter how small, beats 1,000 plans that never leave the page. It gives you something to measure, to refine, to scale. It is the first engine of self-replication. Remember, leverage rewards speed of learning, not speed of labor. Build fast, fail small, learn immediately. That rhythm creates momentum. By the end of week 4, you should have one artifact that exists in the world. That object is your proof that leverage is possible. Now you learn to treat feedback as currency. Every lever must be calibrated. You test not to seek validation, but to understand mechanics. Publish your artifact in one place where people can react. Watch how they engage. Measure what holds attention and what makes them leave. Do not chase approval, chase signal. The difference is everything. Da Vinci tested pigments, angles, light. Hill tested phrases, frameworks, and habits. They both refined until results repeated. That repetition is the sign of a working system. You measure only 3 numbers: reach, retention, response. How many people saw it, how long they stayed, what they did after. These 3 metrics tell you what to fix and what to keep. If the signal is weak, adjust one variable at a time. Change the title, the form, or the delivery, but never the core idea until you understand why it failed. Iteration is leverage multiplied through patience. This step transforms emotion into data, and data, when organized, becomes power. Because a man who measures his results no longer needs hope, he has information. When you begin to see improvement, even small, you are no longer building in the dark. You have created a feedback loop. That loop is the foundation of every scalable system. Leverage expands through people. You can build alone, but you compound through others. Napoleon Hill called it the mastermind. Not a crowd, not a fan club, but a small circle of minds united by purpose. 3 is enough. One who creates, one who executes, one who distributes. That triangle is the smallest ecosystem of growth. Find 2 people who share your rhythm. They do not need to think like you, only to move like you. Each must bring a lever you do not have. A designer for your idea, a marketer for your product, a strategist for your system. The rule is reciprocity. Each man contributes one deliverable every 2 weeks. Each holds the others accountable. You are not there to inspire one another, but to multiply results. Hill wrote that no mind ever rises without contact with another mind. He was describing resonance, energy amplified by alignment. When 3 people align around a shared outcome, the collective intelligence becomes a new form of capital. Now distribute what you have built. Do not hoard the artifact, spread it, publish, teach, share, remix. Let it reach more eyes than yours. Da Vinci's drawings spread through apprentices long before printing. Every copy created new opportunity. Your artifact should travel the same way. Use the micro-mastermind to share each piece through their networks. One artifact distributed by 3 people can reach 10 times more ground than if you worked alone. That is social leverage. The more your ideas circulate, the more invisible doors open in return. Leverage is not ownership, it is motion, and nothing moves faster than a group of disciplined minds pulling the same rope. Leverage without a system will collapse under its own weight. This is where you turn effort into automation. Da Vinci documented everything he learned so others could continue his work. Hill created blueprints that trained millions long after he was gone. That is the power of systems. They outlive their builders. Begin by writing down what already works. Every pattern, every small win, every lesson that produced results. Turn each into a repeatable step. This is your standard operating procedure. It does not need software. A notebook will do. Next, automate one link in your process. Schedule your output. Batch your work. Build a simple funnel. One entry point, one message, one offer. You are not chasing scale. You are chasing predictability. The moment your results become repeatable, you have created a machine. That machine is your first true lever. It continues while you rest, while you think, while you plan the next move. The final act is compounding. You reinvest the results into the same system. Each new artifact feeds the next. Each collaboration builds new reach. Each routine increases output without extra strain. This is how a man who starts with nothing begins to outrun those who started with more. Systemizing is not about control. It is about liberation. The system frees your time so you can think again, observe again, and build again. That is the cycle of leverage. See, act, refine, repeat. Every turn increases force. Every loop grows quieter but stronger. By day 90, you should have 3 assets: a written system, a working artifact, and a small circle that amplifies both. Together, they form the foundation of independence. You have stopped working for leverage. You have become the source of it. Let's look at what you built in 90 days. You made a commitment. You trained your observation. You found the intersection between skill and pattern. You created, tested, and refined an artifact. You formed a circle that multiplies you. And you turned chaos into a simple system that grows by itself. This is not theory, it is structure, a blueprint that any man with focus and consistency can follow. When you master these 6 moves, you are no longer trapped by hard work alone. You are guided by leverage. Next, I'll show you how these principles looked in real lives. Da Vinci, Hill, and modern builders who began from zero and turned insight into empires. Because leverage, once it appears, never stops multiplying. Now let's make this real. Leverage is not philosophy until it touches the ground. So let's look at how it moves in the hands of people who began with nothing. 4 stories, 4 different ways the invisible becomes visible. The first is about an artist. He lived in a small apartment, worked a 9 to 5, and painted at night when everyone else was sleeping. He had no connections, no rich collectors, and no time to promote his work. But he borrowed Da Vinci's oldest weapon, observation. He decided to study what people actually stopped to look at. He spent 1 month sketching small scenes from city life, 1 per morning before work. At first, no one noticed, but patterns appeared. He realized that drawings showing motion, a cyclist in the rain, a man fixing his tie, a child running, received the strongest reactions. So he chose 10 sketches and printed them into a small booklet. He sold them online for $5 each. A few buyers asked for prints, and soon his notebook began earning money while he was still asleep. 1 notebook, 10 drawings, a small, quiet machine. That is leverage born from observation, the ability to see what others ignore and turn it into energy that works in your absence. The second story belongs to three strangers, a writer, a designer, and a teacher. They met in an online forum discussing self-education. None had more than a few hundred followers. They applied Hill's idea of the mastermind. They created a small circle. Each person contributed one piece of the puzzle. The writer handled the words, the designer built the visuals, and the teacher explained the method. They produced a micro course in 3 weeks and sold it for $20. 50 people bought it in the first month. $1,000 may not sound like much, but it was the first time their knowledge earned while they slept. More importantly, the system worked again the next month. They discovered that shared structure multiplies faster than solo effort. That is social leverage, the amplification that happens when aligned minds pull in the same direction. The third story is about a young creator with no audience and no team. He recorded one long video explaining what he had learned about discipline. Then he cut it into 5 short clips, each one with a different entry point. He posted them across multiple platforms. The clips barely reached a few hundred views at first, but months later, one short resurfaced, then another. By the end of the year, those fragments had gathered over 5,000 new viewers. The long video continued to grow quietly, feeding all the smaller ones. That is the nature of artifacts. They compound silently. Every piece of content, every design, every written page becomes a lever of time, still pushing even when you are done touching it. The last story is about a consultant. He spent years trading hours for dollars. Every day he repeated the same explanations to new clients. One night he decided to write down his entire process, step by step. He turned it into a short guide and offered it for $20. 20 people bought it in the first week. That single document now brings him $2,000 a month. He no longer sells hours. He sells structure. He turned repetition into automation. That is mechanical leverage, the art of capturing your knowledge once so it keeps working forever. 4 different people, 4 different levers: observation, collaboration, creation, systemization. Each started from zero. Each used what they already had, and each proved the same truth that Da Vinci and Hill tried to teach. Leverage does not reward privilege. It rewards precision. Most people think they need more resources, but the truth is, they just need better architecture, a clearer way of seeing, connecting, and repeating. That is why leverage is not luck, it is structure. And once you build it, even the smallest engine keeps turning long after the builder walks away. Every form of leverage carries danger. The same force that multiplies your effort can also multiply your mistakes. The tool itself is neutral. It only amplifies the truth of the one who wields it. Da Vinci's inventions could heal or destroy. Hill's philosophy could liberate or manipulate. Leverage exposes your intent. It magnifies character before it magnifies results. So before you scale, you ask yourself 3 questions. What am I amplifying? Who benefits when I win? And what would happen if everyone copied my system? If the answer leads to decay, you have built the wrong machine. There are 4 failure modes that kill leverage before it matures. The first is vanity leverage. You build for attention instead of impact. You chase metrics that feed ego but starve meaning. You post not to teach but to be seen. The numbers rise, but the influence dies. Remember this: attention without integrity is noise, not leverage. The second failure is the echo chamber. You surround yourself with people who agree too easily. Your circle becomes a mirror instead of a multiplier. Real masterminds challenge. They argue. They refine the metal. If your environment never hurts your pride, it will never sharpen your craft. The third failure is misapplied pattern. You find one model that works in one context and copy it everywhere. But leverage is context sensitive. What lifted one man may crush another. Da Vinci learned that not every wing could fly. Hill learned that not every belief becomes reality. Wisdom is knowing where to stop repeating. The final failure is premature scaling. You expand before your foundation holds. You automate chaos. You hire before you understand. And the machine you built begins to consume you. Growth without structure is cancer disguised as progress. Every builder faces these traps. No one escapes them entirely. The point is not perfection, but awareness. Leverage demands that you look in the mirror before you pull the lever. Da Vinci once wrote that a mechanism reveals the soul of its maker. So before you build, decide what kind of soul you want your work to reflect. Because in the end, leverage is not only a question of strategy, it is a question of character, and character multiplied becomes destiny. If this made you see the world a little clearer, stay, think deeper. This is ThinkMate.